Long Island medium Theresa Caputo's ex-husband, Larry Caputo, is hospitalized after breaking his chest in a car accident. His family is very worried about him. Larry Caputo had always been a man of resilience, but as he lay in a hospital bed, his chest aching from the brutal impact of the accident, he realized that some things were beyond his control. The once strong, charismatic man now struggled to take even the shallowest breaths, his body battered, his spirit wavering. The accident had been sudden, a moment of distraction leading to a violent crash that sent his car spiraling across the road. Emergency responders had to extract him from the wreckage, his ribs shattered, his breathing labored. The news had spread quickly, and soon, his family gathered in the hospital, each carrying their own burden of emotions. Theresa Caputo stood by the window, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing patterns on the glass. Despite their history, she couldn't ignore the pang of concern she felt. They had shared years of life together, raised children, built memories that now resurfaced with every beep of the heart monitor. Victoria and Larry Jr. sat on either side of the hospital bed, their expressions etched with worry. They had their differences with their father, but in this moment, none of it mattered. Victoria clenched his hand, whispering reassurances, while Larry Jr. sat stiffly, his emotions caught between anger and grief. The doctor entered the room, his face solemn. "Mr. Caputo has sustained severe fractures to his chest. He will need time to heal, but with care, he should recover." A collective sigh of relief filled the room. Theresa finally stepped closer to the bed, placing a hesitant hand on Larry's arm. His eyes fluttered open, hazy with pain but filled with recognition. "You gave us a scare," she murmured. Larry managed a weak chuckle, wincing. "Guess I still know how to make an entrance." Tears welled in Victoria's eyes as she squeezed his hand. "Just focus on healing, Dad. We're here." For the first time in a long time, they were together, not as a broken family, but as people who still cared. And in that hospital room, amidst the pain and uncertainty, there was a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, through this accident, they would find a way to heal more than just broken bones. However, Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, is known for her incredible ability to connect with spirits and deliver messages from the other side. But one of her most unique and powerful readings happened when she was asked to conduct a joint session for 3 religious leaders, a Christian pastor, a Jewish rabbi, and a Buddhist monk. The reading took place in a quiet spiritual retreat center, where the 3 men of faith gathered with open hearts, but also a bit of skepticism. Each of them approached the experience with different expectations, some seeing it as an opportunity for deeper understanding, while others remained cautious about whether a medium could truly bridge the gap between the living and the departed. As Theresa closed her eyes and took a deep breath, she immediately felt a strong presence enter the room. Theresa turned to the pastor and said, "I see a man standing beside you in a suit, holding a Bible. He's showing me a wooden cross, and he keeps saying, 'Tell him I'm proud of the work he's doing.'" The pastor's eyes welled up with tears. "That sounds like my father. He was a minister before me. He always worried if I would follow in his footsteps." Theresa nodded. "He says you are guiding people the way he hoped you would. He's at peace." Turning to the rabbi, Theresa suddenly felt a deep sense of tradition and heritage. "I see an older woman lighting candles. She's saying the word Shabbat over and over. Does that mean anything to you?" The rabbi gasped. "That must be my grandmother. She always lit the Sabbath candles and made sure our family stayed connected to our faith." Theresa smiled. "She says she still watches over you during every Shabbat. She loves how you carry on the traditions." Finally, Theresa focused on the monk, who had been silently observing with a serene expression. Suddenly, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. "There's no single person stepping forward, but I feel an immense presence of spiritual guides surrounding you. They want you to know that your journey is exactly as it should be." The monk simply bowed his head. In Buddhism, we believe in the presence of enlightened beings who guide us. What you have said makes complete sense. At the end of the session, the three men sat in silence, reflecting on the experience. Despite their different religious beliefs, they had shared something profoundly moving. The pastor whispered, "It seems that love and guidance transcend all religions." The rabbi nodded, "And those who came before us are never truly gone." The monk smiled, "The spirit is eternal, beyond names and labels." Theresa Caputo left that reading knowing she had just facilitated something rare and beautiful, a moment where faith, love, and the afterlife converged, proving that no matter our beliefs, we are all connected. However, Theresa Caputo had spent her life connecting with spirits, delivering messages from the beyond, and bringing peace to grieving souls. But one evening, as she sat in her Long Island home, she felt something different, something dark. A cold breeze swept through the room, making the candle flames flicker wildly. She knew this wasn't just any spirit, this was something else. For weeks, Theresa had been plagued by strange occurrences, objects moving on their own, whispering voices in the night, and an overwhelming sense of dread. She had never felt fear in the presence of spirits before, but this entity was different. It wasn't just lingering, it was tormenting her. Determined to confront the presence, she set up her sacred space with white candles, crystals, and sage. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared, her voice steady. "You have no power over me." The room grew icy, and a guttural voice echoed, "You should be." A shadowy figure materialized before her eyes. It wasn't a lost loved one seeking closure, it was something malevolent. Theresa's heart pounded, but she knew she couldn't show weakness. She called upon the spirits of light, channeling the energy of those she had helped before. Suddenly, the candles flared, their golden light cutting through the darkness. The entity shrieked as if in pain. Theresa focused all her energy, whispering an incantation of protection. The walls trembled, the temperature spiked, and with a final burst of light, the shadow dissipated into nothingness. The air cleared, the warmth returned, and Theresa felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She knew the battle was won, but she also understood something new. There were forces in the spirit world beyond even her understanding. As she sat back, exhausted yet victorious, she whispered to herself, "This is far from over." Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, had just discovered that not all spirits sought closure. Some sought war. However, Shawn had always been skeptical about the supernatural. Growing up in Long Island, he had heard whispers about Theresa Caputo, the renowned Long Island medium, but he never gave it much thought. To him, the idea of talking to spirits seemed far-fetched, until the day he found himself sitting in front of her. It all started when Shawn's grandmother passed away. They had been incredibly close, and her sudden departure left a void in his heart. His mother, a firm believer in spiritual connections, insisted he see Theresa Caputo. "Just give it a try," she urged. "If nothing happens, at least you'll know." Reluctantly, Shawn agreed. As he stepped into Theresa's cozy home, adorned with candles and framed photos of past clients, a strange sense of calm washed over him. Theresa greeted him with her signature warm smile and big blonde hair, her presence both comforting and commanding. "Shawn, right," she said, taking a seat. "Sweetheart, the energy around you is intense. Someone's been trying to reach you." Shawn's skepticism wavered. "Who?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Theresa closed her eyes, nodding as if listening to something beyond his comprehension. "An older woman. She's saying my boy. She's got a beautiful warm energy, feels like a grandmother figure." Shawn's breath hitched. His grandmother had always called him my boy. "She wants you to know she's at peace, but you need to let go of the guilt," Theresa continued. "She says you've been blaming yourself for not being there in her final moments. She wants you to stop. She knows you loved her." Tears welled in Shawn's eyes. He had been working late the night his grandmother passed, missing his chance to say goodbye. The guilt had been eating at him ever since. She's showing me a locket, something gold. Theresa's eyes flickered open. Do you have it? Shawn reached into his pocket, pulling out a small golden locket, his grandmother's. He had carried it every day since her passing. At that moment, Shawn knew. There was no logical explanation, no way Theresa could have known about the locket or the nickname. But she did, and in that instant, he felt lighter, as if his grandmother herself had wrapped him in one final, loving embrace. As Shawn left Theresa's house, the weight on his heart lifted. Maybe, just maybe, some things couldn't be explained, but that didn't mean they weren't real. I've crafted a fictional story about Shawn and Long Island medium Theresa Caputo. Let me know if you want any changes or additions. However, Emma had always felt a presence around her, especially after her grandmother's passing. She often dreamed of her, heard faint whispers when she was alone, and felt sudden chills in the room. But she dismissed it as grief playing tricks on her mind, until she met Theresa Caputo. Desperate for answers, Emma booked a session with the renowned Long Island medium. As she sat nervously in Theresa's cozy reading room, filled with the scent of lavender and warm candlelight, she felt an undeniable energy. "Sweetheart, you've got a strong spirit standing beside you," Theresa said, tapping her signature long nails on the table. "Your grandmother, right?" Emma gasped. She hadn't said a word about her. Theresa smiled warmly. "She's telling me she's been trying to reach you. Those whispers you hear, that's her, and she says you have the same gift I do." Emma's heart pounded. "I've always felt different, but I thought I was imagining things." Theresa nodded knowingly. "Nope, you're not crazy. You've got intuition, a connection to the other side. Your grandmother says she's been guiding you, helping you see what's beyond the veil." Tears welled in Emma's eyes. "I don't know how to control it. It scares me." Theresa reached out, taking Emma's hands in hers. "Fear is natural, but your gift is a blessing, not a curse. Spirits choose to communicate with those who can handle it. You just need to embrace it." With Theresa's guidance, Emma began to hone her abilities. She learned to listen, to trust the messages that came through, and to find peace in the connection with the spirit world. Soon, she was helping others just as Theresa had helped her, bringing closure, love, and hope to those yearning for a message from beyond. One evening, Emma sat alone in her apartment, a single candle flickering beside her. A familiar warmth filled the room, and she smiled. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered, and in the softest hush of the night, she heard a gentle reply, "I'm always with you." However, Theresa Caputo stood in front of her mirror, running her fingers through her signature platinum blonde hair. She adjusted her leopard print blouse and took a deep breath. She wasn't skinny, but she wasn't fat either. She was just Theresa, Long Island's favorite medium, a woman who embraced herself exactly as she was. She had always been comfortable in her skin, but lately something felt off. Social media trolls had started commenting on her weight, criticizing, "You're too big for those heels, Theresa. Try some yoga, Theresa. Maybe lay off the pasta, Theresa." It was enough to make anyone second-guess themselves. Theresa had spent years connecting people with their departed loved ones, bringing peace and closure to countless families. Her gift had nothing to do with her size, and she wasn't about to let a bunch of internet nobodies tell her how to live. Still, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling in her gut, one that had nothing to do with spirits. Maybe it was time for something new. One afternoon, after a particularly exhausting session with a client who had lost her mother, Theresa sat on her couch with her best friend, Lisa. "Liz, do you think I should change?" she asked, swirling her iced coffee with her acrylic nails. Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Change what? Your hair? 'Cause, honey, you know I'd support you, but that bouffin is your brand." Theresa laughed. "No, not my hair. I don't know, my look, my lifestyle. People have been saying things." Lisa scoffed. "Since when do you care what people think?" Theresa sighed. "I don't, but maybe a little change wouldn't hurt." For me, not for them. So she did it her way. She started going on long walks, not to lose weight, but to clear her head. She tried new foods, not to diet, but to enjoy. She even hired a personal trainer, an 80-year-old retired boxer named Saul, who had no patience for nonsense. "You don't need to be skinny, you need to be strong," he grumbled during their first session. Theresa loved him immediately. A few months later, she stood in front of that same mirror. She wasn't skinnier, but she felt lighter. She wasn't transformed, but she felt stronger. And when she walked out the door in her 6-inch stilettos, she didn't do it for the cameras or the haters or even for her fans. She did it for herself. Because whether she was skinny, fat, or somewhere in between, she was still Theresa Caputo, and that was more than enough. However, Theresa Caputo sat in her cozy Long Island home, sipping a cup of herbal tea as she prepared for another reading. Tonight, she was expecting a woman named Susan, who had reached out, desperate for closure. As Susan entered the room, her hands trembled. She was in her mid-50s, her blue eyes filled with unspoken sorrow. "Thank you for seeing me, Theresa. I need to know if my sister, Rachel, is at peace. She passed suddenly last year, and I never got to say goodbye." Theresa closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Instantly, she felt a shift in the energy around her. A presence made itself known, a light, playful energy that carried warmth. Did Rachel have a unique way of laughing, kind of like a snort? Theresa asked with a smile. Susan gasped. "Yes, she always laughed like that." Theresa chuckled. "She's showing me an image of you two sneaking out late at night as teenagers. Were you the wild ones?" Susan covered her mouth, her eyes welling with tears. "We used to climb out of our bedroom window to go to the beach." I can't believe she remembers that. Theresa nodded. "She does. And she says you need to stop feeling guilty. You were there for her, even if you weren't in the room when she passed. She knew you loved her." Susan let out a shaky breath. "I always wondered if she was scared." Theresa's expression softened. She says she wasn't. She saw a bright light and felt an overwhelming sense of peace, and she wants you to stop blaming yourself. Susan wiped her tears. "This means everything to me. Thank you." As the reading ended, Theresa felt Rachel's energy fade, but not before one last message. She says to tell you, don't be afraid to go back to the beach at night. She's always there, watching the waves with you. Susan smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in months. "I think I will." As she left, Theresa took another sip of tea, feeling grateful for the gift she had, bringing comfort to those who needed it most. Hello lovely viewers, welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.